Also, let me say this as well. Women don't, especially black women, because it's really only black women that get the whole angry black woman trope and get called. I see women get called bitter, but again, most of what I'm going to be talking about on here is going to be for black women. Don't let people gaslight you into like not being hateful. And here's what I mean. If you know me on a personal level, you know that I have no issue whatsoever with hating something and expressing that hatred and doubling down on that hatred. And I would like for more black women to have this notion, right? To have that confidence to be hateful and to be comfortable in your hatred. If you went through something traumatic, again, if you know me, you've known some of the things, probably you've known some of the things that I've went through and some of the most traumatic situations I've had to deal with. I have no issue with telling somebody that at one point in time, I was bitter, I was angry, I was upset. There's nothing wrong with that. But the way many men weaponize that against women is so they will be gaslit into letting down, or you all will be gaslit into letting down your guard and allowing whatever man this is to either, have some type of access to you or confirm their inherent biases, i.e., whatever makes them feel comfortable with categorizing black women as angry, as bitter, and as, whatever else that, these dumb motherfuckers like to say. Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with being hateful. Just because you're hateful, just because you don't let some shit go, doesn't mean that you necessarily have to suffer. Just because you don't do that, you can be 100% healed. That doesn't mean that you have to be okay with the thing or the person that did you wrong existing. If somebody did something to you and it was like, especially physically traumatic, it is 100% okay to hate that person and to have a standing hatred of said person, right? For instance, like me, I don't eat pork, right? I don't eat seafood. And I have a standing dislike, a standing hatred for pork and seafood. I don't have to dwell on that fact in order for me to acknowledge the fact that I hate both of those food items. I have a general hatred. What's that woman named Carolyn Bryan or whatever? I have a general hatred for that woman as an example. I don't have to sit up here and dote on it. I don't have to sit up here and continuously emphasize it. You can literally hate something and go about your day. It can be, compartmentalized. Yeah, it can be compartmentalized. A lot of these men that like to call women bitter, a lot of those men are bitter as well. And a lot of us have not really done the work to actually get past said bitterness or said trauma or said anger that we feel towards our high school girlfriend that broke our hearts or some shit like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, on the relationship aspect of what I'm referring to, I'm not saying that women are perfect and women don't do things wrong. But like compartmentalize that shit and move the fuck on. A lot of the things that, moving on to a bigger scale, a lot of the things that women are upset with men about are not necessarily just relationship things, right? Because we understand people grow all the time. People make mistakes in relationships. People are not mature. And I'm not saying that as an excuse. I'm just saying we understand that a lot of times it comes with the territory of dating for both men and women. But a lot of the things that a lot of women are bitter towards men about are not just simply, oh, well, he broke my heart or he cheated. Like, don't get me wrong, those are valid things to be upset about. But I don't really think that is condoning or verifying the amount of vitriol that a lot of women really have. But because of how men in society treat women that choose to be angry or hateful towards men, a lot of them don't really express it as such. A lot of you all are afraid to express it. I'm here to tell you that that is perfectly okay to, have hatred. I would strongly advise against expressing this in a physical manner towards whoever it is you hate, unless, it's something that they did to you. And, some people are not going to learn until it happens to them. And for what it's worth, I understand it. I support you. The law might not feel the same way. So that's why I'm telling you not to handle it physically. But I understand some people don't understand the repercussions of their action until they have to reap those results in a physical manner. But with all that being said, I encourage you all. It's okay to be hateful, right? If you were a very loving person, you're a very caring person, nobody will come and say that, oh, well, you can't be, well, I mean, they might try to call you naive. But the point that I'm trying to make is people wouldn't have the same type of energy for you, being hateful, as they would if you were, caring or something like that. It would be a different type of energy and probably not as strong. So it's okay, especially given the things that a lot of women are better at men about. A lot of women, even if they haven't went through these things, a lot of women have their eyes open to the point where they can look around and see people that are like them or that look like them going through certain things at the hands of men or that are caused by the laws and rules that men have established. And while those women have not went through those particular things, it still hurts. It still affects you to see people that look like you or resemble you go through traumatic situations and oftentimes not get the justice that they deserve, or a lot of times still get mistreated, even though they're actually the victims in the situation. To put it in even clear, stark terms, like a lot of women, especially black women now, are aware of the femicide rate in the black community. If you read those articles, you read those reports, those accounts, most of the the people that contribute the most to black femicide in the black community are black males, as in like black boys or teenagers and black men. Even if you as a black woman have not personally went through the things that a lot of those black women went through, whether it be sexual assault, abuse, and stuff like that, if you understand what's going on and you are self-aware, then you understand you have an inherent, almost, I say, right to have some type of bitterness, have some type of hatred toward the people that are doing these things to people that look like you. Within the scope of this conversation, I think I said something to the same effect in my last video. A person that understood the history of racism in America would never say to a black man, "Oh, well, you shouldn't be so hateful. You shouldn't be as biased as you are towards white people," and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, that's what a lot of black men say to black women. That's how a lot of black men end up gaslighting black women, because we intentionally project on you that, oh, well, it's not all men and you shouldn't be like this. Oh, well, you're bitter. Oh, well, you're like, look at what women in general in America, all over the world, really, but look at what black women are going through as a collective, right? Like, it's one thing to say, okay, well, if we view this group of people as our adversaries, okay, then you wouldn't expect your enemy to do, like, good things for you. But the thing about it is, you cannot be betrayed by your enemy. Like, it's never going to be your enemy that betrays you. It's always going to be people that you trust, people that you call your friends, your confidants, your comrades, stuff like that. So in the scope of the conversation, and the fact that a lot of black women have every right to be bitter or upset, by far, a lot of black women, hold on, let me back up because I kind of lost my train of thought. Sorry. Within the scope of this conversation, a lot of black women have every right to be bitter, upset, and angry at black men specifically. Like, there's no reason why, if a black woman is venting about the issues that she's seen, if even she has to went through it herself, within the confines of the black community, for a black man to come and say, oh, well, not all black men. Like, that is one of the most illogical things that could be done. And, we as black men, we understand it whenever we're talking about racist white people or unjust cops or police brutality and stuff like that. And somebody will come and say, oh, well, it's not all cops that are bad. We understand it, and we'll say, oh, well, just because it's obvious that it's not all cops. But at the end of the day, there's nothing gained by you coming here and saying, oh, well, it's not all of blank, or it's not all of such and such, or not all such and such do such and such. There's nothing gained. There's nothing contributed. There's really almost a detracting away from the actual topic or the actual point that's being discussed. If I, as a black man, come to a black woman and say, oh, well, not all black men do this, or not all black men are like this, that's only me as a black man trying to center the fact that I feel attacked in some way, shape, or form, and wanting to make myself feel special or not be attacked by the subject matter. And this happens a lot. That's really, when they talk about hit dogs hollering and stuff like that, that's really what it is. And there's also another thing that we as men do, specifically black men, and we do it for men and we do it for black men as well. But there's something that we do, and we always like to try to protect our collective image, right? If there's something being talked about that applies to men, A lot of times we'll come and say, oh, well, not all men are like this, or just the men that you chose to deal with, the men that you picked are like this. When the fact of the matter is, we can understand that men are trash and dangerous when it comes to us, but not when it comes